Hey everyone, welcome back to Wild Tony Farms, and today we're going to be getting into a new video. And before we get into the video, please go on and click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Let's go on and get into the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wildwood Honeybee Farms YouTube channel. I appreciate y'all joining us, and before we get into the video, I would appreciate you guys if you'd go on and click the thumbs up button. That would help me a lot. So today we are going to be talking about myths that are untrue in beekeeping. There's a lot of myths. I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them, but today we are going to be talking about some of the common myths in beekeeping that are untrue. So let's first start out with one myth that is a really big one, and a lot of people share in online, beekeepers share online, is that if you put a hive in the sun, that will deter hive beetles. As y'all know, hive beetles are terrible. They were terrible here last year. We've seen them this year. They are really annoying. So a lot of people try to know kind of how you get rid of them. There's basic ways to do it. Put in traps, things like that, or peppermint, a lot of things that you can do to get rid of them. But one common thing a lot of people bought into was if you put the hives in the sun rather than the shade. If you put them in the sun, then all the beetles will pretty much go away. It will deter them, because the myth was that the beetles didn't like the sun because it was shining down on the colonies, and it would deter them. And that is simply not true. I did an experiment while not knowing I was doing it. So I had a bee yard not too far away from my original one that is in the shade. It was in the sun. This other bee yard was in the sun. It was a pretty good bee yard. It was pretty good size. And whenever I was able to get out there and look around in the colonies, there were beetles everywhere in the colonies that were in the sun. So that really doesn't make a difference. You're still going to have beetles if you have beetles no matter what. And down here in Alabama, it's warm. Beetles thrive down here. So in our area, we have beetles all the time. So for me, even in the sun, it really don't make a difference. So that is a myth. It don't work. I wouldn't waste time to try to do it. The only reason why I made that bee yard was to expand a little bit, but that didn't go my way. If you watch the channel, I wasn't able to continue that bee yard. That bee yard is no longer relevant. There's no bees there. I may try to grow it back up next year if I want to expand a little bit better. Now I just have my original bee yard, which is in the shade. So that's a myth. Don't believe it. Even if you put it in the sun, it ain't gonna make a difference. Like I said, I put some colonies in the sun. I went in there were beetles everywhere. I couldn't believe it, all the beetles that were in there. And it just isn't worth time to bother around and try it out. I know a lot of people will say, oh, if you put it in the sun, it will help a lot. It really doesn't. It really doesn't make a difference. So if you're trying to get rid of beetles, if you have a bad beetle problem, the best way to get rid of the beetles is the old traditional ways, whether it be putting some oil traps, some traps that you put some type of poison in there that only beetles can go in and get. Those, the barns, those are what they're called. They're really good too. Peppermint, a lot of people like using peppermint. I've used peppermint before, but I don't have any more I don't have any more peppermint now, so I can't really use it. But like I said, that's a myth. Don't believe it. Even if you put the hives in the sun, it won't make a difference. It's just a waste of time. Let's talk about the next myth, which is a big one, especially beyond people who don't keep bees. Now, a lot of beekeepers may mention it, but it's really more of a non-beekeeper, a person who doesn't even keep bees, and that is all bees are aggressive. Yes, there are some bees that are defensive, that are more defensive than others, more aggressive than others, but for the most part, most bees are docile. It's something that people try to go online and talk so much about, try to get views, try to hype it up, should I say, and it's untrue. Now, a lot of people, like I said, will go online and say, oh my goodness, there are so many bees that are aggressive. These bees are so bad, they're aggressive, I need to get rid of them. Like I said, there's Russians, there's some other type of bees that are more aggressive than others, but for the most part, most bees are docile. And I did have a colony that I went out and inspected a lot, and it was pretty defensive. It would, anytime I went in there, it would go all around my face and try to, sting me. And it's not Africanized bees. A lot of people think anytime whenever bees get after you, it's automatically Africanized bees. And that's just totally not the case. It's not always going to be Africanized bees. The reason why people think it's always going to be Africanized bees is because people get in their head that any bees that go after you and are mean to you are Africanized bees. But instead, it's most likely just a Russian bee. Russian bees are more defensive than Italian bees and some of these other breeds that are much more docile. But Russians are still a good breed, and they are much, much more docile than Africanized bee. Africanized bees are much, much more aggressive than some of these other bees. But aggressive bees, Africanized bees, are not anywhere near here. At least in the United States, unless if you go more west, maybe. But down here in Alabama, we don't have any Africanized bees. But that is one of the biggest myths out there among non-beekeepers, is that all bees are aggressive. No matter what bee it is, they always label them as an Africanized bee. And that's just not the case. There's Italian bees, which are very, very docile. My favorite breed. There's Carnioleans, which are very, very docile as well. And so many others that are docile as well. So they're not all aggressive and mean like Africanized bees, or some people label as killer bees and so on. But there are so many that are docile out there and are really, really nice when you go in there and inspect them, as long as you don't smush a bee or anything like that. Of course a bee is going to be mad at you whenever you open the hive. That's just natural. All bees are going to be mad if you open up a colony and take all their frames out. And one thing I would like to say, it's something that I always love to say to people who always, go towards bees as so aggressive, they're bad, because when you open them and they don't let you go in there calmly, they're not always calm. And the thing is, I don't think most people would be calm if some big person came and opened the top of their colony, of their house up, and started looking around, seeing what you had, all that stuff. Nobody would be happy if that happened. So, it's natural for bees to be somewhat angry or disturbed when you open up the colony. That's natural, because they're just natural bees. They're natural. A lot of bees are very, very docile. So many of them. Even when you open them up and inspect, as long as you're slow and you're not making too much movements where you're, don't slam frames, you're reckless, as long as you're not anything like that, the bees will be really nice and you have nothing to fear about. Alright, the third myth that I do want to debunk is all bees sting. Now, there's a lot of uneducated people out there who don't keep bees, and that's okay. There's a lot of people who don't know much about bees, so that's why I'm here. That's why you have a lot of people on here to answer your questions and figure out and help you out with things that you don't know about. So don't feel shamed about that you don't know it, but I do want to be here to let you know that this is a myth. All bees do not sting. The only bees that do sting are the worker bees. The worker bees do pretty much everything in the colony. They go out and get honey, they feed the queen, they feed the drones, and They feed a larva, they take care of everything in the colony, they guard the colony to make sure nothing comes in and tries to kill the queen, kill the colony. Those worker bees are the most beneficial bee in a colony. Then you have the queen. A lot of people think the queen will sting. The only time when a queen will sting is to kill another queen in the colony. That's the only time they'll use their stinger. They don't sting anybody. They don't try to sting me. I've never had that happen. I don't think anybody's had that happen. A queen bee doesn't sting. Nobody's ever heard of that. No, there's no reports of that. So that's a myth. Queen bees do not sting. They just, the only time when they'll sting is whenever we're trying to kill another queen. And you may be thinking, why would they want to kill another queen? Well, I'll kind of talk a little bit about this and then we'll get to the next one. You see, whenever you have a split or if you have a swarm, especially whenever bees swarm, you have one half go away from the original queen and you'll have the other half of the colony at home with queen cells. If multiple of those queen cells hatch at once, you'll have 2-3 virgin queens in there. So what happens? Well, they have a fight, they fight each other, and then, they pretty much fight till death, right? So, each queen will try to sting each other, kill one, and become the queen of the colony. That's pretty much it. That's the easiest way I can explain it. But that's the only time a queen will use her stinger is to kill another queen. Now, a drone. Most people know that drones don't have a stinger and they cannot sting. But some people think a drone can sting because they're big and they look mean. But to me, they don't look mean, but some people might think so. But a drone does not sting. They will buzz around, and it sounds a louder buzz than a worker. That's the only difference, really. And they're bigger, and they don't do nothing in the colony except go and mate with the queen. So, not all bees in the hive sting. The only bees in the colony that will sting is the workers, and right when they sting, they die. So, they can't sting multiple times either, like a wasp or a yellow jacket, which we don't like either. We don't like wasps or yellow jackets. Yellow jackets will also try to. I've been seeing a lot more yellow jackets lately, I will say. Yellow jackets have been trying to get some of my sugar syrup that I have set out, in the BR. They love to go out there on the little sides where there might be some rain going in there, and some of the sugar will kind of go to the sides. And those yellow jackets go on over there and try to get that. But I'm pretty much done feeding now, so we're pretty much done with that. All bees in a colony, they don't sting. Only the workers. Okay, this is pretty much the last myth because I don't have much more time here. And we're going to just use a little bit of common sense here. A lot of people do like to say, and it's good to hear everybody's opinion, but a lot of people do like to say that bees prefer to move upward in a colony. Now, why do people think this? Well, I think it is okay to say that most people think this is because the original Langstroth colony, that kind of forces the bees to move upwards. You can't move down because the colony keeps on going up and up. So most people think they prefer to do that. Well, they really don't, because how do the colonies start in a tree is really probably from the top. I'm not saying from the tippy top, but somewhere in the middle they have to have a top to. So I will say, let's kind of make a better example. So let's say, you have a colony in the wall or somewhere. Most likely that colony will start from the top and move downward. So there's a lot of different hives that are made for that specific reason, because most bees like to go down. They don't really go up. They really pretty much start from the top and move downwards. So that's just a little bit of common sense there. Bees really don't prefer to go up, but they will go up because that's kind of how we force them to do it with the design of the Langstroth hive. I use Langstroth's hive. They work really, really good, and I like them. And the bees don't have any problem with going up, but they probably prefer to go down rather than upward. So just a quick little thing there, myth that I will debunk. Bees do prefer to go down rather than upward, like I said, because bees start from the top of a wall or anything else like that and go down, and that's kind of how they make their colony. Now, like I said, there are a lot of hives that implicate that, so then it's a little bit more natural. Langstroth hives all those type of hives, those force the bees to go up, because you have your brood, then you have your super, then you have another super, or you have your brood box, and you add boxes on top of each other. Then the bees continue to move upward. So that's kind of probably where beekeepers get that idea that bees really prefer to go upward, and they'll do it. They do it in the colony, but it does take a little bit of time to get them to go up. I've had colonies never even move up to one of those upper boxes that I put on the colony, but they do eventually. Once they need it, they'll go up there. But they most likely do prefer to go down. In a good thing that I will say that a lot of beekeepers do to implicate this is, instead of forcing them to go up, now with the design that most of us use in a Langstroth hive, you don't always have to force them to go up. What you can do is, whenever you have your single deep, you can take the deep off, put your second deep on the bottom, and then put your deep on top, and then they can move down. So I do take back that it forces them to, because a beekeeper can go in there and kind of do that type of thing. I usually call it under supering. That's kind of how you do that. And for me, the reason why I did that at one point was that it could make the bees go a little bit more faster, because that's kind of how they do it in the wild. So I try to kind of do that. They never drew it out, because the main reason it wasn't the way I was doing it, it was just because there was not much beeswax on the frames, because I used plastic foundation. There wasn't much of the plastic foundation on the frames, and they never really went on there. But I did re-wax them, and they finally did. So you can do that, and that's pretty much the last myth I will mention. I kind of on a hustle for time, but I do appreciate you guys watching the video, and please go on and click the thumbs up button. We'll catch you guys on the next speaking video. Take care, everyone.